And Stoke Newington actually became one of the ancient parishes all across England, sort of in medieval times, sort of the boundaries got fixed more or less. Stoke Newington, a parish within the county of Middlesex. Middlesex was also divided into hundreds, like all the counties were sort of divided into hundreds. They had different subdivision names in the north of England, and in Sussex, for example, they were called rapes. Stoke Newington, an ordinary parish in the hundred of which was called Ossulstone. Here is now a map of sort of mid-Victorian London and the division into parishes. That was before, actually, there was London-wide government, all the parishes of Middlesex here. Just to give you an idea of where Stoke Newington sits in terms of size, so it was surrounded by very large parishes. They all were named after saints, as we know, and as we know, the saint for the church here in the parish was St. Mary. Same as actually in Islington. St. Pancras to this day is still referred to as St. Pancras. So quite large parishes, but obviously in the city of London, the parishes were, because of the population, were really small. To really reflect the size of the population. So every parish had sort of 100, 200 people. Stoke Newington. And you can already see here this really weird squares, and I'll certainly come back to that and explain what that is, because there were exclaves of Hornsey, and I already referred to South Hornsey, which sort of split from the really large parish of Hornsey. And people to this day are really surprised when they walk down Town Hall Approach and they see South Hornsey. They think, well, we're nowhere near Hornsey, but it used to be part of the parish of Hornsey, and that was quite common across England. So a lot of parishes had exclaves because members of that parish, residents, had fields somewhere else, and they were surrounded by other parishes. But because some residents of Hornsey were owners of these fields here, they became part of the parish of Hornsey. That then creating basically a detached part here of Stoke Newington. We don't have to read all that. That's for when you download the slides. Just a sort of quick summary, and we get to that in the next 20 minutes. It was around the 13th century that Stoke Newington was already a village. It had its own parish church, but it was then that across England, so the parish boundaries really got fixed. That was down to a survey the church did. I think it was Pope Nicholas IV who initiated this taxatio survey. The church basically wanted to know, give me a list of all the parishes and how much income they generate. Obviously, it was all about money. So the equivalent of council tax, really. And wanted to know how much tax it generates. And so Stoke was already on that list as a recognised parish. And because all the parishes were then recognised, the boundaries after that point wouldn't change anymore, because no one wanted to give away a piece of their parish. In the same way that you and your neighbour sort of agreed, the fence is your boundary, and you don't every day argue about that. And in that way, sort of the parishes were fixed. There were the occasional boundary disputes, and there was even one between Stoke Newington and Hackney still in 1814, which was sort of the last one at about Crossway. It was really rare. So the shape we see now on the map, that was the boundary of Stoke Newington for, hundreds and hundreds of years. Obviously, when we talk of parishes, a lot of people think, oh, that's just something to do with the church. But in sort of social history, we always distinguish between the ecclesiastical parishes and the civil parishes. And what happened over the years was that basically your parish, that was the sort of basic form of local government, and more responsibilities were taken on by the parish, such as poor relief, which was a very important one, or road maintenance. And it was very important that you would mark the boundaries, for example, because as parish you would only want to pay up